The protagonist of this story, Kami-sun, is a high school student who may look normal, but hides a terrifying secret. He is an insector with a living colony of ants crawling inside him, feeding him power. But instead of hunting humans like the others, he uses his terrifying abilities to hunt insectors themselves. He's risking everything to protect the world while hiding the monster that grows stronger every day. Will he be able to control the swarm within and fight for mankind? Let's see. The story kicks off with a girl sprinting through the streets at night, screaming for help as two men chase after her. Just as they're about to catch her, a boy appears behind them and calmly warns them to run if they don't want to die. When the men ignore him, he peels off a patch from his neck, revealing a hole. At that exact moment, the girl transforms into a giant blank ant. Shocked, the men freeze, only to be killed by the ant on the spot. The following day, a team from Bug Reaper arrives at the scene, now in ruins after the ant attack. While examining the area, one of the workers informs their boss that they've discovered a severed lower body and a right arm. The worker also adds that a survivor claimed to have seen a boy nearby during the incident. Meanwhile, at school, a girl named Choa is reading a book about the Bug Reaper group. The book explains that in 2005, monsters wearing insect masks began appearing around the world. These beings not only cause destruction through violence, but also eat people. The scariest part? They live disguised among humans and are known as insectors. Just as Choa finishes reading, the teacher brings up the recent incident in Manhwa, mentioning that the police suspect an insector is involved. A masked girl named Yedjin turns to Choa and asks if she's from that area, and the two agree to head home together later. While the rest of the class gossips, a boy named Kami-sun, also wearing a patch on his neck, sits quietly munching on snacks. The teacher then asks for the class assignments, assigning Choa, who's the class president, the task of collecting and submitting them. After he leaves, two boys approach Choa, telling her not to turn in any assignments since no one else has finished theirs. But to their shock, Kami-sun hands her his completed assignment. When Kami-sun returns to his seat, the same two boys confront him, asking why he submitted it when they all agreed not to. One of them notices the patch on his neck and jokingly asks if it's a hickey. But when he peels it off, he's stunned to see a hole and a tiny ant crawling out of it. He tries to tell the others, but they dismiss it as a joke. Yedjin then teases Choa, asking if she likes Kami-sun, which makes her blush. Later, Choa goes to the teacher's office to submit both Kami-sun and her own assignment. The teacher tells her that she and Kami-sun are free to leave, but the rest of the class must stay behind for cleanup duty. As she walks out, Choa worries about getting home since Yedjin is also staying behind. Then she remembers Kami-sun lives in the same town. She nervously tells him about the punishment and asks if she can go home with him, but he flatly refuses and walks away. After school, the class begins their cleanup, but Kami-sun is nowhere to be found. While helping out, Yedjin sees Choa crying and asks what's wrong. Choa explains that Kami-sun rejected her. Nearby, two boys step aside, and one asks the other about what he saw earlier with Kami-sun, a snake. The boy confirms it. He really did see an ant crawl out of it. As they speak, an insector suddenly appears and kills one of the boys, slicing off his head. A nearby girl, horrified, takes off running in fear. As the insector appears in front of the other students, panic breaks out and they all start fleeing in terror. Amid the chaos, Yedjin collapses, and Choa desperately tries to wake her. But then she notices the insector is approaching them. Just as it's about to strike, it suddenly halts and confusingly addresses her as the class president, questioning why she's even there. When Choa looks closely, she realizes in shock that the insector is actually their teacher. The teacher, now furious, scolds her for not listening to him. As he raises his weapon to kill her, an ant suddenly attacks and slices off both of his hands. Stunned, Choa sees a mysterious figure clad in black ant armor standing nearby, the person who just saved her. Overwhelmed, Choa loses consciousness too, and the ant-armored man, revealed to be Kami-sun, catches her. The teacher-turned monster growls that he knows Kami-sun and questions why he's attacking his own kind. Kami-sun responds by slamming a fierce punch into the monster's stomach, sending it flying. After laying the two girls safely to the side, Kami-sun turns and demands to know why the monster is killing students. The monster, now enraged, admits it's because it's been struggling to find food and even threatens to eat Kami-sun. It then morphs into a ball, hurling itself at Kami-sun and smashing him to the ground. The monster keeps leaping and crashing into Kami-san repeatedly, tearing up the entire area. But Kami-san stays composed. When a monster charges at him again, Kami-san enlarges his hands and drives them straight into the creature's body. Shocked, the monster can't react in time as Kami-san lands another heavy punch into its gut, grabs it tightly, and tears it apart with sheer force. Once the creature is destroyed, Kami-san reverts back to his human form and quietly walks away. Soon after, the Bug Reaper team arrives at the site, collecting the bodies of the fallen students. The group's leaders stand with a formidable ally, who surveys the destruction and notes that it looks like a brutal fight between insects. A worker approaches the boss, reporting that the schoolgirl who had faced the beetle has regained consciousness. She mentioned a man in black who saved her. At the same time, they hear that another student is speaking to the media, claiming he saved his classmates and even took photos of the monsters. Not wanting to complicate things, the boss walks over to Choa, who is on a call reassuring her worried mother. Seeing the boss smoking, Choa puts on an oxygen mask, but he tells her it's not a cigarette, it's insect repellent. He then asks her about what happened. Choa explains that when the teacher tried to kill them, a black figure showed up and rescued them. When the powerful man asks why she's calling the figure human, she says he just looked like one. The boss then calmly asks her which student skipped the cleaning punishment that day. Later that night, Kami's returns home, where his grandmother warmly greets him and tells him she made lots of food. But Kami-san says he's not hungry. Worried, she asks if he's injured and tells him to rest in his room. Once inside, Kami-san turns on the TV, where news coverage is reporting the incident from earlier. The broadcast reveals that a large number of students were killed at a high school in Kurugu, Seoul, by none other than their own teacher, who turned out to be an insector. Lying on his bed, Kami-san watches as a line of blank-faced ants crawls in through the window and enters the hole in his neck. The next day, at an abandoned building, the police are searching for several missing children. On the third floor, they're horrified to find the kids trapped in cocoons. Outside, the Bug Reaper team waits in a parked car, ready for the call. Tay asks why they can't just go in and help, but Sam explains the police have the first say in the investigation. Moments later, the police urgently call for assistance, and Leader Pyo immediately orders the team to head inside. Inside the building, the police begin cutting open the cocoons. The captain notes that the enemy is an insector, so they have to act quickly. One of the officers opens a cocoon and comforts the children inside, telling them they're safe now. Just then, a sudden strike kills one of the soldiers instantly. The captain turns and spots a mosquito-type insector, who demands to know what they're doing with his children. When another soldier fires at the creature, it moves with lightning speed and kills him immediately. The captain realizes it's even faster than a bullet. As the creature lunges toward him, Sam fires from a tower, but the shot only grazes the insector's nose. When it charges at the captain again, Tay jumps in and strikes it with a stick. Pyo then tells the captain to evacuate the children. Right at that moment, as the insector leaps again, Pyo calmly flicks cigarette ash toward it, causing it to fall. But the creature doesn't back down. It breaks the tip of its nose and launches a wave of mosquito attacks. Pyo throws more smoke to stop it, successfully saving everyone. Though the insect manages to escape through a window, Pyo tells Sam to shoot it, but before he can do anything, he's injured by the swarm of mosquito attacks. The next day, Choa sits at the playground with her younger brother and his friend, reading news about the school incident. She feels sorry for Sejin, who had brain surgery and isn't accepting any visitors. While she reads, her little brother, wearing a bee mask, tries to scare her. When she scolds him, he runs off. Choa complains about having to watch over him, especially since he's not even attending school. Looking up, she sees Kami's nearby, holding a few ice creams. He gives one to her brother, and the three of them start eating together. Suddenly, Choa's brother kicks the soccer ball out of the playground. He tells her and runs off with his friend to retrieve it. Choa tries to stop him, but Kami's assures her he'll bring the boys back. At the spot, Kami's finds the second boy holding the ball and asking why Kami's is there. A boy casually says, Kami's seems like one of his kind. This boy is actually the mosquito insector from the day before. He reveals that he was about to eat the kid before Kami's interrupted. He warns Kami's to stay out of his territory or face the consequences. To his surprise, Kami's peels off a patch from his neck and suddenly transforms into Ant-Man. The insector accuses Kami's of spreading rumors about his rivals and declares that Kami's son will die today. He transforms back into his true mosquito form and starts darting around Kami's son, taunting him for being so slow he can't even follow his movements. Feeling pleased with himself, the insector keeps circling until Kami's son easily catches him midair and defeats him in an instant. Afterward, Kami's son turns back into his human form and rejoins Choa and her brother. The little boy asks for more ice cream, and Kami's son cheerfully gives him everything, saying he's already full. The following day, after a week-long break, the students return to school, only to be disheartened by the announcement that Class 3 has been shut down. Now, they have to attend classes with students from other sections. Choa apologizes to her old classmates, explaining she's no longer the class president, and moves to a new class. As she sadly looks at her chat with Yedjin and scans the room, she mumbles that even in a new class, that annoying guy Nosu is still around. At the same time, Nosu is goofing off and making a racket with some boys when Yedjin, a tough and fearless girl from the class, gets irritated. Without warning, she kicks him and firmly tells him to keep it down. She walks away, and Choa silently thinks that Yedjin handles guys like Nosu way better. As Yedjin exits, Kami's son enters the classroom. Excited, Choa calls him over and points out that the girl who just walked out is the real deal in this class. Soon after, the teacher announces a test. Kami's son, still feeling hungry, complains, but Choa comforts him by saying they'll eat lunch together later. Right then, he hears a strange, secretive voice. It's an insector calling him. When the test ends and the class begins to relax, Choa looks over to Kami's son, his seat, but realizes he's disappeared. He's actually on his way, following the mysterious voice. Elsewhere, Pyo and Tae are headed to the school, chatting about the mosquito insector they encountered the day before. Suddenly, Kami's son bumps into Pyo but doesn't stop and continues walking. Pyo and Tae then reach the teacher's office, where Pyo tells Choa that he's here to meet the student she was supposed to introduce him to. Choa informs them that the student left because he was hungry. Tae then wonders if the student who bumped into Pyo earlier was the same guy. Pyo hands Choa his card and tells her to give it to the student before he leaves for the hospital to see Sam. Meanwhile, Kami's son arrives at the voice's location and transforms into Ant-Man. He spots an insector waiting and immediately attacks, but the creature dodges and lands a kick on Kami's son. Kami's son lunges again and punches the insector in the face, but he's puzzled by its odd movements. Not taking chances, he unleashes an ant attack and kills it on the spot. However, he soon notices threads attached to the insector's body, realizing too late that it was a trap set by Silk. Suddenly, a bomb emerges from the creature's mouth and explodes, flinging Kami's son backwards. That's when the real insector, Silk, shows up. She sharply asks Kami's son if he's ever killed a fly before. Just then, another insector arrives wielding a large gun, commenting that the death of the fly has caused problems, especially with customers who wanted young meat. He orders Silk to kill Kami's son. She kicks him hard in the head, but to her shock, it turns out to be just Kami's son's shell. At that very moment, Kami's son drops down from above with armored fists, aiming a punch at Silk. The gun-wielding insector opens fire, but Kami's son expertly dodges using his armored hands. As he gets ready to strike again, Silk catches him off guard with her threads, grabbing his arm from behind. She uses the opening to land a strong kick, slamming him into the ground. Now on his knees, Kami's son faces the insector pointing a gun right at his head. Just as the trigger is about to be pulled, he commands his black ant shell to move. At that critical moment, Tae shows up and redirects the gun away from Kami's son. Pyo also arrives and remarks that these insectors keep pushing their limits. As he prepares to finish them off, Silk suddenly hurls a bomb at them and escapes with the other insector. Tae tells Pyo their focus should now be on catching the black ant. But when they turn around, Kami's son has already vanished. Tae worries that if their commander finds out they let him slip away again, they'll be in serious trouble. Later, Kami's son returns home and sits to eat with his grandmother. He eats fast, driven by hunger, and heads to his room once he's done. But his mind drifts back to the disturbing words of the insectors, how he had started killing his own kind. Lost in thought, he takes off his shirt, and that's when black ants start biting him from the inside, causing him to scream out in agony. Meanwhile, in a hidden location, Yedjin is busy collecting human cocoons. It turns out she's the same silk-based insector who had attacked Kami's son earlier. After safely storing the cocoons in a locker room, she heads over to meet her superior, another insector, who angrily scolds her. He complains that he needed to capture the black ant to get noticed by the heavenly insects, but the bug reapers ruined his plan. When Yedjin removes her jacket, her boss notices something unexpected. Her uniform looks exactly like Ant-Man's. Suspicious, he grabs her sleeve and demands to know if she knows him. Yedjin denies any connection, but he insists that Ant-Man is her classmate and commands her to kill him. Yedjin clearly refuses, saying she doesn't want to do such filthy work. But the boss grabs her by the throat and reminds her of the promise she once made to do anything he asked. Now she's backing out. Just then his dog barks outside. Curious, he checks and sees a boy trying to escape. He switches to the security feed and asks Yedjin if she forgot to lock the room. She calmly replies that she didn't and adds that she's quitting. Without hesitation, he throws a bomb at the escaping boy, killing him on the spot. Yedjin is left in shock. He repeats his demand. She must kill the black ant. The next day, at school, the students are having lunch. Nosu asks the cafeteria lady for more sauce, but she refuses. While eating, he notices Kami's son devouring a massive amount of food and gets confused. Choa also remarks that Kami's son seems to be eating far more than usual. As Kami's son keeps eating, the black ants inside his body start attacking again. Seeing his discomfort, Choa asks if something's wrong, while Nosu stares at Kami's son as plate and jokes that some people get unlimited refills. Choa informs him that Kami's son is actually paying for 10 meals. Nosu teases that anyone eating this much might be an insector. Hearing that, Yedjin glances at Kami's son. When Nosu continues to pester, Kami's son suddenly snaps. He grabs Nosu by the mouth, shoves him aside, and rushes out, thinking that his hunger still isn't satisfied. Inside, the ants are attacking more aggressively, and he's starting to lose control. Screaming in agony, his upper body transforms into Ant-Man. At that moment, Yedjin appears and immediately realizes Kami's son is an insector. She transforms too. As Kami's son lunges to attack, she counters using her silk threads. Later, Kami's son dreams of being swarmed by huge black ants, begging them to stop. Just then, a massive red ant appears and slaughters them all. Suddenly, Kami's son wakes up in his bed, unable to remember what happened after he saw her. He wonders if the silence from the ants means she's dead. His grandmother calls out, asking if he's hungry. Kami's son declines. She then asks if he caught any bugs the day before. Kami's son admits he doesn't remember and asks how he got home. She explains that a tall girl with yellow hair carried him back, covered in blood. This surprises Kami's son, and she even asks if that girl is like him. Kami's son denies it, but realizes Yedjin must still be alive. Just then, he hears that familiar, secret voice of another insector calling to him. He follows it. Meanwhile, Yedjin and her boss are in an open area. The boss complains about all the problems she's caused and asks why she still hasn't killed the black ant. As they argue, Kami's son appears in his Ant-Man form. Both Yedjin and her boss immediately shift into their insecta forms. Yedjin leaps at Kami's son, but he easily dodges. Using his powerful hand, he punches her in the stomach, cracking her armor and sending her flying. As Kami's son walks past her, she asks where he's going, saying the fight isn't over. She grabs his foot, explaining that if she doesn't stop him, she'll never be able to get her revenge on the celestial insects. Watching this, her boss mocks her, calling her pathetic for crawling on the ground. She calls him by name, Jang, and demands to know what he's doing. Jang cruelly responds, saying she really thought he'd help her with revenge. He reveals that he always intended to hand her over to the celestial insects too. Furious, Yedjin yells that she endured all this pain for him, and now he's ready to toss her aside. Jang charges at her, ready to finish her off with a hand strike. At that very moment, Kami's son jumps into the air, unseen by Jang. When he lands, a powerful blast erupts. Jang laughs, saying there are landmines planted and Kami's son will explode soon. Kami's son, however, knows he has to move faster. He focuses his power and targets Jang's hand. As Jang launches another strike, Kami's son dodges, grabs his arm, and swiftly slices off Jang's head. Yedjin is stunned. Kami's son returns to human form and orders the ants to devour Jang's corpse. As he walks past, Yedjin calls out, asking why he saved her, and whether he's now against the celestial insects. Kami-san demands she tell him what happened the day they fought. Surprised he doesn't remember, Yedjin starts explaining. She says when she blocked his attack, he slammed her to the ground. Just as his armored hand was about to strike her, he tried to stop himself, but his hand turned on him. She used her silk to restrain it. That moment triggered something, causing Kami's-san to revert back into human form, but he fainted. She goes on, saying she spent a long time debating whether to kill him. Eventually, she decided that he might be the key to defeating the celestial insects. She tells him that now, with Jang dead, Kami's-san has become the insect's main target. Their human supply line is cut, and they'll come after him, his family, his friends, everyone close to him. Yedjin promises to fight beside him, but Kami-san rejects her offer. He accuses her of just latching onto anything because she can't handle being alone. He coldly tells her he can't save people who are already lost. Then, placing his ant hand on her face, he declares he'll devour everything. The next day at school, the teacher walks in and begins taking attendance. But when he calls out Yedjin's name, there's no response. He's confused. Yedjin has never missed a day before. Nosu and his friend notice this and seem quite satisfied. They bring up an accident that happened in Nunshin the previous day, and since they often saw Yedjin around that area, they assume she must have died. Just as they're feeling pleased about it, Yedjin unexpectedly walks into the class and announces her presence, shocking them both. Meanwhile, back at the site where Jang was defeated, a team from the Bug Reapers is investigating. They discover his prosthetic leg along with a strange bug pill. While they're examining the area, a healthy-looking man shows up and tries to walk into the restricted zone. A worker attempts to stop him by placing a hand on his shoulder, but the man swiftly slices the worker's hand off. The team reacts instantly, and one of them radios for backup, warning that an untransformed insector is on the scene. Before help arrives, the man kills everyone there. After picking up the bug pill, he makes a call to inform someone that the sample is now secured. Back at school, Yedjin secretly passes a note to Kami's-san, asking him to meet her outside. When he joins her, he asks her seriously why she called him there. She responds with a question of her own, why he's acting like he doesn't already know. She recalls the terrifying moment when he had covered her mouth and how she thought she would die. But when she woke up, she was still alive. As she shares this memory, Kami's-san steps closer. She then asks for his help. He brushes her off coldly, saying she's just emergency food to him. But Yedjin explains that now even Kami's-san is a target of the insectors. She reveals that their goal is to wipe out humans and rise to the top of the food chain. They're evolving and eliminating anything in their path. Despite her warning, Kami's-san refuses to help. Watching them from above, Choa sees the two together and can't help but feel a little jealous. At the Bug Reaper facility, a doctor is fitting Tae with a special suit designed for combat against insect enemies. Outside the lab, others are watching through the glass. Pyo mentions that they recently lost 4 members in an accident, which is why he wants everyone equipped with this new gear. To test the suit, the doctor opens another door and releases an insector into the room with Tae. Alone with the creature, Tae feels uncertain about his weapon, but the doctor urges him to activate the suit's built-in system. As Tae gets ready, he suddenly realizes the insector has vanished from in front of him. Confused, he turns, and the insector is right behind him. It lunges to attack, but the suit reacts instantly, yanking Tae out of danger. Gaining some confidence, Tae engages and blocks a powerful punch, kicking the insector away. But the creature grabs his neck. Before it can finish him off, an electric shock strikes the insector, saving Tae. The doctor announces that the test is over and the insector is returned to its holding cell. Later, Pyo visits the library for more research. He flips through several books, but finds nothing useful, until he stumbles upon one titled Ant Castle Project. Inside is a picture of an insector along with a name, Kajjima. Meanwhile, Yedjin explains to Kami's-san that aside from fighting the insect enemies, she also has a personal goal, to kill someone. When Kami's-san asks who, she reveals it's none other than the leader of the celestial insects, Kajjima. Hearing this, Kami-san is visibly shaken, recalling the painful moment when Kajjima had killed his mother. Later, as Kami-san heads home, Yedjin calls out from behind, playfully asking if he's going out hunting. When he says no, she suggests they go enjoy some meat together since they've reunited. Kami-san sternly asks if she's referring to eating humans. Yedjin laughs and assures him she just wants a good meal, not people. They reach a hotel restaurant and order food. As the waiter sets the dishes on the table, he nervously asks his boss what happens if the guests don't finish their meal. The boss replies that they'll simply be charged for whatever's left. But both men are stunned when Kami's son and Yedjin start devouring the food at lightning speed. During the meal, Yedjin asks Kami's son what he knows about Kajjima. When he refuses to answer, she guesses that something tragic must have happened to his family. She then shares her own story, how Kajjima killed both of her parents. But what stuck with her the most was when Kajjima spared her life, saying he couldn't kill his own kind. As she talks, Kami's son finishes all his food. Yedjin notices and orders more, surprising both the waiter and the boss again. After eating, they leave the restaurant, and Yedjin suggests grabbing a drink. While she's ordering from a nearby stall, Kami's son senses something strange about the people walking around them. A couple walks by, a girl and a boy, and Kami's son suddenly mutters that he's going to eat them. The girl just laughs it off, and they stroll away. When Yedjin returns and asks what that intense look was about, Kami's son simply replies that someone among them is an insector. Meanwhile, Choa arrives at the hospital where her friend Sejin is admitted. Standing outside the room, she acknowledges to herself that Sejin probably doesn't want to see her, so she simply leaves a gift. From inside, Sejin tells her to go away. As Choa walks off, memories of their time together flood her mind, and in that moment, she also notices a stunning girl walking down the corridor. Inside Sejin's room, she sits silently on the bed. Suddenly, the door opens and the same beautiful girl walks in. She questions why Sejin is so angry, urging her not to keep all those emotions bottled up. Then, taking a strange bug pill out of her own mouth, she places it into Sejin's mouth, saying that all the irritating humans need to be wiped out. As soon as Sejin swallows the pill, her body begins to react violently, and she screams in agony. Meanwhile, outside in the backyard, that same girl is with a boy. She's excited to see a pool, and the boy playfully shoves her in, telling her to enjoy herself. But when she looks up from the water, he's nowhere to be seen. Suddenly, he grabs her foot from beneath the surface and drags her down, slamming her to the bottom until she faints. He murmurs that now he can finally feed on her to quench his hunger. This boy, an insector, senses something unusual outside the window. It's Kami's son, the Ant-Man, who crashes through the glass and delivers a powerful kick to him. The insector tries to fight back, but Yedjin arrives and restrains him using her thread magic. She then pulls the unconscious girl from the pool and feels relieved to find her still breathing. When the insector questions why they're interfering with his meal, Kami's son prepares to strike him. But Yedjin stops him, suggesting they should capture the insector alive, as he might hold valuable information. Realizing they're turning against their own kind, the insector challenges them, asking if they truly think they can take him down. Suddenly, he transforms into his true insect form, Zagana, and unleashes devastating slashes that injure both of them. He mocks them for always hunting the weak, and dares them to face a real celestial insect. Zagana is actually a pawn skater insect. When Kami's son and Yedjin try to retaliate, he effortlessly blocks their attacks using his twin swords and swiftly lunges toward Kami's son. Yedjin quickly pulls Kami's son aside, saving him from the deadly blow. Watching Zagana's movements, Yedjin begins to suspect he might be manipulating water. She realizes the entire area is surrounded by it, and getting too close would put her within his lethal range. The sheer strength of the celestial insects begins to dawn on her. They're far more powerful than she imagined, even among the insectors. As she contemplates this, Kami's son suddenly charges towards Zagana and instructs her to lay a thread across the water surface. Although uncertain, she follows his lead. At the same time, Kami's son knows it's time to unlock the mysterious red power he inherited after defeating Jang. Focusing on disarming Zagana's twin swords, he engages in fierce close combat. He lands a few solid hits to Zagana's ribs, knocking the swords out of his hands. Empowered by the red energy, Kami's son jumps in for a finishing move. But to his shock, Zagana pulls out two more swords hidden behind his back and strikes with a powerful cross slash, tearing through Kami's son's armor. Just as the tide turns against them, Yedjin intervenes, snatching one of Zagana's swords with her threads and yanking it free. Seeing the opportunity, Kami's son seizes the sword and plunges it into Zagana's chest. Zagana tries to counter with another attack, but Kami's son blocks it with his bare hand and orders his ants to swarm and devour the insector. Zagana screams as he's overtaken. Suddenly, the same well-built man who had previously slaughtered members of the Bug Reaper group appears. Without warning, he punches Kami's son in the face and attacks Yedjin as well. Tossing his club card at them, he swiftly rescues Zagana and disappears from the scene. Meanwhile, Yedjin returns to her hometown and goes to visit her friend, who is shocked to see her. When her friend asks her to step aside, Yedjin instead leans in and plants a gentle kiss on her lips, something she's done often. But this time it's different. Yedjin is now an insector. Without warning, she extends her long tongue and kills her friend instantly. Once she's done, the same beautiful woman who gave Yedjin the bug pill at the hospital appears. She curiously asks how human blood tastes, since it was Yedjin's first time drinking it. Yedjin responds that it's delicious. Elsewhere, on a public train, a man stands among the passengers, behaving oddly. Overcome with hunger, he suddenly lashes out with a long tongue and slaughters everyone around him in an instant. Meanwhile, Choa is walking to school when she notices Kami's son ahead. She's surprised to see his face bruised and asks about it. Kami's son explains he got into a fight, which is why he looks that way. At school, Choa is glad to see Yedjin looking much healthier now and tells her she was really worried, especially since Yedjin never came to visit. Yedjin brushes it off, saying she was just avoiding people because she got a haircut. While they talk, Kami's son arrives in class, and Yedjin asks about the seat next to her. Choa says it belongs to Yedjin, the class leader. Meanwhile, Yedjin is at home resting. She texts Kami's son to let him know she won't make it to school because she had to go to the hospital. She then picks up the mysterious card thrown by a strange man earlier and wonders who he could be. Back at school, Nosa starts teasing Yedjin about her new short haircut. When he notices a cut on the back of her head, he seems surprised but keeps mocking her. As Yedjin starts getting irritated, her insector instincts begin to show. But before anything happens, Choa punches Nosu in the face and demands he apologize to Yedjin. Nosu quickly agrees and leaves. Watching all this, Kami-san senses something unusual in Yedjin's energy. It feels unstable, and he suspects it might be too dangerous for her to remain an insector. Back on the train, the man who had killed all the passengers suddenly transforms into a massive larvae-form insector. At that moment, two brothers from the Bug Reaper group, Ko and Ro, arrive and are stunned by the insect's massive size. Ro says they need to capture it and bring it back to headquarters for the doctor to examine. But just then, the insector lunges at Ro. Ko quickly reacts by throwing a liquid on its face and shooting it in the head. Still, the creature doesn't go down and instead strikes Ro with its tail. Enraged, Ko grabs the insector, boasts that he's stronger than his brother, and throws it away. Ro uses the opening to jump in and slash the creature, finally killing it. As the insector dies, a small bug pill crawls out of its body and burrows into Ro's head. After that, the two brothers bring the huge larvae back to Bug Reaper headquarters. There, Dr. Tay and Sam greet them from corner. They say they've heard about the capture, but sarcastically mention it's a shame the brothers caught it first. Ro, now acting a bit off, steps forward with a strange attitude that surprises Tay. Meanwhile, the doctors begin examining the large insector and find the small larvae hidden inside it.